Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. It is January 21st, 2011. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight on Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And, of course, don't stop here. Check out all the other great shows on this network. Vinnie Eastwood, James Burns, Casper Leach, Truther Girls, Kevin Barrett, Come and Take It Radio, etc. Many, many more shows, and always free archives, so check it out, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Hope you are having a lovely day and finding a way to stay warm. Judging by the reports in the text chat, it looks like another bitter day. We have like 6 inches of ice outside here, so I'm not going anywhere for a while, but hopefully it's better for you. We are going to be finishing off the week tonight with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. She is the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, and we're going to talk about global alchemy and the divine feminine, what it is, what it isn't, and how we can achieve it or further bring these principles, ancient principles and practices into our life to hopefully better serve humanity. She deals, and is a teacher. She talks about natural alchemy, sacred union, living the entire mythological body of the goddess, and she's powerfully creating global transformation on the Venus path. So we'll talk about that. She's actually had to deal with quite a bit of the dark forces on the Earth, and maybe most recognized for the Mars project that she was recruited for. So maybe we'll get into that as well. And she's practicing and researching, of course, society and cultural affairs, conflict resolution, ancient cultures, wilderness, environmental science, mysticism, metaphysics, holistic health, as she is also a natural healer and astrologer. She does readings and teachings, and her website, where you can find all this, and beautiful writer, by the way, Cosmic Gaia 2012.com, and I'll spell that for you, Cosmic, COSMICGAIA 2012.com. I'll be posting that link and many others in the text chat tonight if you'd like to join us over at truthbrigade.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call. Phone lines are open, 402-237-2525, but it is that time. We will be right back after this short break, so stay tuned. Truth Brigade Radio. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Raising a little hell, so if you would like to join us for the text chat tonight, that's over at truthbrigade.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. That's 402-AFR-2525. We are talking about global alchemy and the divine feminine tonight with our special guest, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Cosmic Gaia 2012.com is the website, and I'm going to spell that again for you. That's COSMICGAIA 2012.com. So it's so good to have you here tonight, Laura. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, good, good. You have such an interesting story, and I have to admit a lot of parallels, in fact, in our lives. So when I came across your story, I was just really, really interested. And since this is our first time talking to each other, we all get to discover who Laura is together. So I'm glad for that. But, you know, we were just talking on the break. The producer said, well, oh, Eisenhower, I heard of him. him. I didn't really pay attention too much in school, but if you could just kind of tell us, if you could just kind of reiterate what we talked about there about school, and then if you could go into what it's like being the great-granddaughter of a famous president.
Right. Well, we were just sort of talking about how we have taken the route of alternative education and sort of seeking subjects and concepts that one doesn't necessarily learn in school. So I didn't really learn a lot about Eisenhower in school. There was much more that I learned just being in the family. And there's just a lot there that is in, history books that I'm well aware of that does not describe the deeper layers of the things that he was dealing with and the things that have happened to our government since he became president after the Second World War. So, growing up in the family was very surreal, but, obviously one doesn't really have much reference to anything else except for what they're used to and what they've grown up in, but I just found it very surreal because, I met his wife, Mamie, who died, I think, when I was about 5. I never met him, but I felt his presence, and I felt, that I was able to somehow communicate with him, or his presence was there, because I would be like, who is this bald guy that I keep seeing? And I and I realized, that's our family member, and I started to really tune into what kind of man he was and what sort of legacy he had left, and the fact that he, had been president. And so as I was growing up, I was starting to realize, okay, well, this is interesting, and this isn't, your everyday thing. And then going to family gatherings and looking through the family photo albums and seeing, trips to these, camps and these events that he attended around wartime and some of the meetings that he had, just in our photo album and books. And then all the books, of course, on the shelf, that family members have written about him. And I just really was like, wow. But then I was in my own dialogue and my own sort of understanding about, what my mission was and how it really connected to him. And, so we read in the history books, stuff about the war, and he was the Allied commander of the Second World War, the general, 5-star general, and really was this strategist behind D-Day, and then, of course, became president. And there's a lot of history there, a lot of information about the type of president he was and the different policies and the different things he was able to achieve. But my angle is going a lot deeper than that, going into the understandings of, the ET treaties, the shadow government, the Nazi party, and alien technologies, and, the three-letter organizations and their origins, and the secrecy and the warning of the military-industrial complex, and what that all means today, and what we're really looking at on a very much more profound and deep level that one just does not learn in school.
Exactly. Very good. And, he did talk about the military-industrial complex, of course, in one of his famous speeches. But let me ask you this, because you talk about global alchemy, transformation, peace, conflict resolution, etc. How do you think you would get along if he were here today?
If he were here today, how would he get along?
No, how would you two get along, do you think? I mean, would you see eye to eye? Is there justification for war, or do you think there would maybe be some kind of conflict with what you're teaching today?
Oh, we see eye to eye. We're both Libras, and a lot of different kind of psychics and channelers and healers. When they've met me, they like in a room full of people, one of them said, "Oh, Eisenhower's in the room," like President Eisenhower. They had no idea I was related to him, and I said, wow, okay. And I went up to them after this meditation class I was in. I kind of stumbled upon it. I was living in Northern California, and it was being held, and I just kind of went in there. And and I told them I was related, and they said, "Oh, well, he's with you, and he's, we can see his presence." And then another time, somebody had gotten messages from him. He appeared to them, and I take it all with a grain of salt. I have an open mind. I don't have real fixed beliefs, but if it resonates, it resonates. But anyway, he was just saying, protect my little Laura, and just all this stuff about what I was coming out with about the Mars stuff, and so that really hit home. And like I said, I had been in somewhat communication with him my whole life, and I just felt like, I feel so incredibly close to him, and we both are very much against war. We're both very much all about justice and peace and truth and spirit, and we're so much alike. It's unbelievable, and I've just always felt incredibly close to him, not just as a family member, but as a visionary and as somebody who, has the passion to take on a leadership role to, really empower the people and bring things into equality and fairness and balance. And so I know that we'd be an incredible team. I know we do see eye to eye, and we would be doing anything that we could to, put an end to the military-industrial complex and expose the secrets. I know when he was president, he was I know he wanted to tell the American people a lot, and some whistleblowers came forward and said that he did want to disclose the ET thing. But he had 8 heart attacks, and knowing the 3-letter organizations and the way that they do torture folks who want to speak truth, I know that he was being harmed for wanting to speak out, and I think that had to do with the heart attacks. And,
well,
panic.
in fact, that's how they got rid of General Levkin, who was actually on his commission dealing with exactly that in reverse engineering and such. But I guess they finally got rid of him last year, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of.
So you think his stance, he would do everything he could to prevent war if he were here today?
Absolutely. He has some of the most incredible quotes I've seen about anti-war and how, what a waste of money it is, and how, all this money could be going to feeding children and taking care of, our society and our people, and just what an absolute waste it is, and how much he really hated, having to deal with the war, but that, he wanted to end it and wanted to, create, peace. Obviously it's hard to create peace when you're fighting a war, but it was, couldn't stand watching, the Nazi Party run like wildfire, destroying everything in their wake, and so had the passion to put an end to it, but had to, get in there, and he always, talked about the heroes being the ones that were fighting, and that he really didn't feel he deserved all the praise because he saw the heroes being the ones that, died for this, and so he's very humble and just absolutely did hate war, and I just really think, and what I really sense in my connection to him is that I feel, very protected and very much guided to expose as much as I can about the military-industrial complex and about the Black Ops project going on, one which I was kind of reeled into, and it's just I know that he is in support of it and in support of everything that I'm doing right now, and absolutely is not a war type person, much more about peace and justice.
Excellent. Let me ask you this, though. Given your knowledge on secret societies, military-industrial complex, black ops, etc., how much say do you think a president really even has when it comes to going to war?
Not a whole lot at all. It's really tough to see, too, because, there's stuff going on that Obama has no idea about. And when the 3-letter organizations came about back in, 47, it was really about starting to create a division between what the president knew and what the shadow government was doing. And there became, these barriers that kept the information from being, shared. And like MJ-12 and the Jason group eventually ended up, in a sense, taking over and having more power than the president himself, even though he initially had a part to play in the establishment of, Truman had started the MJ-12, but he, later, when he became president, came into that and found that he really didn't have much authority, and that his advisors were very much trying to control everything. And the Rockefeller connection is that he was taking Eisenhower under his wing and really encouraging him to be president, but ended up throwing him into a bit of a trap where he was being extremely manipulated, and where the Second World War and the Nazi power actually moved right under his nose and ended up infecting the American government, which he did not expect, because obviously fighting that war, there was a sense of victory when it was over, but really, those scientists and other folks started to come in and become a part of these 3-letter organizations and these groups, and ended up pushing the president out of power, and that's when he really started to panic. And
the victory that we read about in school, I mean, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, isn't exactly really what happened. I mean, of course, we were told we defeated the so-called Nazis, but all we did was bring them here to further the projects.
Right. And so it's just morphed. It's like the war never really was one. It just morphed into a different form, and it's taken the form of MK weapons, psychotronic weapons, mind control, chips, and these agreements with these lower alien races. And, there's a lot of deception there, and as much as there's a lot of rumors about Eisenhower and these treaties, which I do find very likely, I just have no proof, that was just another way to, really work on creating this new world order. And, there's lower alien races and higher alien races, and I know it's a stretch to some people's imaginations to begin to look at this stuff, but it's actually been going on for a really, really long time, and there's a lot of evidence in history, in ancient history, of these races. And, so it did move into the government, and, he just lost the ability to have a certain level of power and authority. And then that's sort of been the case with the presidents that followed him. And that's why Kennedy was assassinated, because when he started bringing out the truth, they weren't going to have it. So most are definitely just pawns and puppets.
Where do you think that began? The let's say intermingling between alien races? Is it just something that, there's all different theories, and some people think from the beginning of time, whenever the heck that was, and then there's, this president signed that, he met some alien and then all of a sudden decided that he was going to sell out and make a deal. So do you think this is a new phenomena, or has it kind of been around ever since the beginning of time that we've been told about?
Well, it's really been going on, I guess you could say since the beginning of time. The archons, the lower alien races, and just, all the different dimensional beings and star systems, were around before the Earth even formed. And the archonic system took hold of Earth very early on. Even though it wasn't the creator or the originator, it became the imitator, and it created a false system that we see, in religion. And this is not to, religion can be very useful for people. This isn't about one particular religion or religion as a whole, but there is a level of manipulation where we're rendered powerless, or we consider ourselves separate from God, and that, one must worship and pray and be saved, when really, in the beginning of time, we had activated DNA, and we were, in touch with our divine blueprint and had access to our higher abilities. But this competitive archonic force came in and sort of has hidden or veiled and sort of made it hard for us to connect with the 95% of our DNA that's considered junk DNA. There's also been a veil put over the planet that keeps us from the higher frequencies, the heavenly nirvana frequencies that we're trying to get anchored here on Earth to create paradise on Earth that was once established here on Earth in these more ancient advanced civilizations. And so there's these two timelines that have been going on. As one has been, really about gnosis, self-realization, understanding the God goddess within, and really having higher abilities. There's been this other agenda, the Illuminati, which has been about mind control, behavior modification, and the control of the masses. And this is what has brought on this veil. And so these agreements and these treaties have been going on for a long time, and so we can't really point the finger at anybody. And plus, I think we'd all be intimidated if there was, a bunch of aliens standing there wanting to make a deal, when really they're the ones that didn't stick to the deal. And well, maybe
we're the aliens to begin with. Maybe they don't have these big eyes and green color skin we see in the movies. Maybe we're all here already.
Well, there's definitely breeding programs in underground bases. There's aliens among us. We are aliens. The word alien makes it's just as bad as saying, God is separate. We have to realize that we're connected to everything in the universe, and that all these different forces, are a part of who we are. It's somewhere in us. But, after knowing so many people who have had contact and been abducted and drawn pictures of what these aliens look like, they're all very similar. And I do think that there are some races that, 8 feet tall, the Nephilims and, the Nordics and there are different species and they do look different. But at the same time, when we choose to take human form, this is kind of the coat we wear. But say when we die, we might just join a star system and look just as alien, or that could be us from the future. The point is, it's like we're not dealing with normal linear time. There's teleportation and time travel that the government is hiding from us. That my colleague Andrew Pishago was a participant in Project Pegasus and, teleported to Mars, as far out as that sounds. All the proof and information is there. And so what sounds crazy to people that seems sci-fi or really out there, and this has all been held from us. And so when we think of the military-industrial complex, we also have to realize that it's been thriving on secrecy, and the whole power that it's had over us is the fact that we've been kept in the dark. And when we start to open our eyes and the truth comes out, then we start to become empowered, and these lower agendas tend to just not have a hold on us anymore.
Absolutely. And yeah, we had Andrew Bashaw go on last year. We're going to definitely have to bring him back because I have a few more questions about that. But let me ask you this. Would it be fair to say that religion is instrumental in keeping us in the dark, so to speak?
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of like as everything is going on behind our back in secrecy, it's sort of like this program to just, act like, these events, these environmental disasters and these things like 9/11, and everybody's looking for faith and something to save the day, and they sort of create these false flags. Well, they actually do create these false flags. They create these scenarios. There's HARP technologies that create these national disasters. It puts the public in panic and trauma, always looking for a savior or a political leader or somebody to save the day. And here we are just waiting and waiting and waiting at the mercy of everything. And so religion has sort of served to disempower us on a spiritual level, where the government has disempowered us on an information level, and we haven't gotten the truth. And so here we are kind of looking to them and then looking, to maybe an external God or a savior. And really, they've set up this whole drama and this whole duality to keep us out of our own power and our own creativity and our own God-goddess consciousness. And,
absolutely, and the power within keep us distracted looking elsewhere. But very well said, Laura. It is that time, so please hold that right there. We will be right back, so stay tuned. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower on Truth Brigade Radio. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower talking about global alchemy and the divine feminine. Her website is Cosmic Gaia 2012. And if you have any questions or comments, don't be shy. Feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525, or you can join us over on the text chat at truthbrigade.com. Laura, we were kind of talking about religion and the divides that it's imposed upon humanity, and we talked a little bit about aliens in the last segment. So let me ask you this. There's getting to different lines of religious thought. There's some that believe, all aliens are good and they're here to save the day, and Jesus is going to land on a spaceship, and we're all going to be taken away. And then that's of course one extreme view, and then the other view is that all aliens are bad, they're fallen angels, they're demons, etc. And the segment that is trying to build everyone up to believe that we need to back a war against reptilian from Mars invasion. So what are your views on what's really going on with ETs?
Okay. Well, there's definitely an agenda on a lower level, but people, when one has multidimensional awareness, which is very important, we're dealing with positive and negative. We're also dealing with ourselves, our own beings, and what we emit into our environment, and our thought forms, our perceptions, our beliefs, and how we interact with the world around us in the cosmic ecosystem kind of determines how we relate and get along with anything. And then we have the collective whole and the health of it. And obviously, things are in balance. And so, it's a micro-macro thing. And yes, there are these lower agendas, and they are very much out to manipulate us. And the Anunnaki first had the intention to create a slave race and cut us off from our true origins and our awareness of it. And so that has, deep roots. And it's this archonic system that's very much in competition. Energy, the feminine energy, the source, and the creator. It is very much oblivious to it and would rather, be this ruler in this dual world and be, considered the god. And all the agents of that are, very much these lower races. But at the same time, the reptilian it's more instinctual. It's about not instinctual as in, the positive instincts necessarily. I'm not saying that there aren't positive reptilians, but it's much about self-preservation. And most of these lower races don't have morals. They just want to stay alive. They want to keep, be kept alive. The Greys can't reproduce, so they use, humans and the way that they choose to have control is through cloning, genetic engineering, and mind control, and working with human hosts that are in agreement to set up this new world order and domination.
Mm-hmm. So isn't that exactly what we humans are doing?
Yeah, humans are in agreement to these agendas, and they're probably scared into it on a lot of levels, but they've chosen particular bloodlines that are able to be, manipulated in this way and cloned and chipped, and they're not really functioning as an organic being anymore. And so, there's dark rituals, of course, and horrific child abuse, and they do anything to generate your negativity and pain, and that's what they thrive on. So we see, when we look at the human body, and I always kind of talk about this, to really understand the larger picture, we have to understand our personal selves and the way the laws of our own bodies work and our own consciousness works. When we're not well, when we're in imbalance, we attract germs and parasites, and cancer acts in the same way. All it wants to do is survive. It doesn't have, this desire to do anything but, invade and dominate and take over and kill. So we don't have to be that intimidated by these lower, because we can be empowered in understanding the way the immune system works, the way perception works, the way coming into balance, has an incredibly healing effect. So the feminine force is huge right now because the scales have been tilting towards this more. I don't want to use gender because I'm not trying to bash men at all, but this more dominating and this more controlling patriarchal kind of mentality that isn't about the divine male, it's about the lower male that women can even run and even become. It's not so much about gender. We have both the male and female within us. But then we have these higher races, and they're more like aeons, and they're emanations that came from the galactic core, and they were first, like the consciousness of God and Goddess, and these star systems that emanated from there, like the Pleiades and Sirius and the Andromedans, and these, and they're more messengers. They're more helping us connect to Source. But people have to be careful on this concept of savior, whether it comes in the form of a Christ figure or whether it comes in the form of a higher alien or ET race. Because
or just Buddha or some other god from some other religion.
Yeah,
right. I mean, yeah, because that's what they use to play off it. So, I mean, yeah, I guess here in America, I guess most people are Christians, so I brought up Christ, but I mean, this is, they're using the same control mechanisms everywhere.
Right, and as long as people are waiting around for something to save the day, then they're not taking responsibility, and we have to realize that we're in co-creation, that our creative energy affects the world around us, and it's not meant to be controlled, it's not meant to be used, it's not meant to be, numb or detached or not in a active and participating way to our global alchemy and our creation of paradise, whatever you want to call it, really lifting these veils and being in our multidimensional awareness where we can journey and manifest and be like in a higher existence where we have much more freedom to explore all that we are and all that we exist in.
Yeah, which we can choose that and be that. We don't need some savior, whether it's your version of God or aliens or whatever. But you know what? I asked you the different sides of the arguments, and of course, there's many less extreme. But Tobias Lars, he says it's never either or. It's always both and more. And I just have to say, I have a real hard time believing that all of anything is either good or bad.
It's not, it's the same thing with light and dark. We're dealing with duality. Our goal is to weave duality back into unity. And what it does is it decharges the evil forces that exist in darkness because the light enlightens it. It gives birth. Darkness is more about the fertile soil and the regenerative power of nature. And light is about, it needs anchoring. It needs to be able to blossom and be grounded, for the tree of life to be restored and for us to exist in matter and in the physical and still be conscious spiritual beings. And, or we can choose one or the other. And, we all have a choice, but to divide everything is what creates these mindsets and these behavior patterns that appear to us to be evil. And that's what causes certain races to have some kind of dominance because we're actually allowing it. It's like we're not being invaded. We're not being taken over. We're only allowing what's happening around us. We do it in our own physical beings when we, allow ourselves to be addicted or we allow ourselves to be abused. I mean, we have the ability to stand up. And it's important to understand and respect, the Christ Sophia energy and Jesus, Magdalene, Buddha, Sophia, and all these different names, but not as things to worship, but things to understand are a part of our genetics, a part of our blueprint, a part of who we are, that we have that consciousness, we have that connection, and they are a part of us as we are a part of it. And it's doing this separation and expecting the savior, whatever form it comes in, sabotaging the fact that we are made up of these forces and energies. And if we're going to function beneath the veils in our lower chakras and in this sort of state of misery and living in a kind of trance, watching TV and just not participating, then we are going to, buy into that duality that we might actually complain about. So It's really about, waking up. And I know that's we hear that too much, like wake up, wake up. It's all about awakening, but it's more than that. It's not just about the truth and the secrets. It's about what we're capable of and what we can do to alter our destiny and to traverse, these challenging timelines and catastrophic scenarios, and be in more ownership of what we manifest, and to also not fear death, because, we've been dying and returning, and, death is a part of the process, but people have to realize, too, that it's about not being controlled and being free within. Death is going to end up expiring in 2012. It's like the wheel of necessity, the zodiac even, and the veils, and everything kind of lifting, kind of take away the necessity for death. Instead of death, we journey through portals. Instead of, even higher technologies, we end up being the technology and being, beyond technology. And so we're learning how to step into all that. And the more we distract ourselves, the less we're not getting anywhere.
Okay, let me ask you this, and you probably already explained it, but, global alchemy, what is it exactly? Because, there's some that would say, oh, wow, that sounds a little new world order-y or a little new agey, and so can you describe what global alchemy is and, of course, the process to attain that?
Right. Well, first of all, it's hard to be misunderstood for that sort of stuff, because I'm not a part of any movement, any cult, or any group, first off. Not saying that any group or doing that is wrong either. This is actually very ancient, and it's very much exiled information that has been destroyed. The whole story of Magdalene and Jesus got rewritten, and the Gnostics and those that really understood, about alchemy and about, the planetary being as an organism, as a goddess, has been, destroyed and sort of, taken out of our awareness. When we think New Agey, it's kind of an insult to very ancient and profoundly sacred information that has been kept from us. Yeah, very so it's good. Not, about, New Agey, and as far as New World Order stuff, unity and unity consciousness and the concept of union is about appreciating the diversity of the human ecosystem of human diversity, but it's able to work in harmony, and we are all able to have our unique roles, but without the competition and without the, like we were talking about earlier, the right or the wrong, the better or the less, the failures and the successes, and the judgments that go along with how we all view each other. Our harmonious system would say, we're all diverse. There is no better or worse. We all have our particular roles. So their concept of New World Order is total control, and having a slave race and having us all be zombies and having, this techno world that, where people are controlled by computers via chips. And that's a whole other thing.
Well, I hate to say it. We're already there. There's nothing new about that.
Right. But it's a timeline in a sense that, has a destiny and has, goals that are far-reaching, that have already big time and have been in the works for thousands of years, that we're seeing, grid technology, all of that, and the breeding programs. I mean, this stuff, it's coming to some people's awareness, but it's been around for a really long time. And sure, it exists, but, we don't have to participate. It's a very lower level thing, but we also want to expose it, and we want to, get as many, out of that, because a lot of innocent people are being used.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, and the numbers really, yes, beyond belief almost. But let me ask you this. Someone asked in the text chat earlier, well, you're kind of connected to a family, Laura, so how are you able to talk about, Mars projects and all of these things without, any visible consequences?
Without consequences for speaking about it?
Yeah, the question was, you're part of the family, so how are you able to talk about these things without any consequences?
Well, I don't know if there's consequences. I just do it because it has to be done, and I kind of handle and accept whatever backlash I get. But, the family I'm from is very honest and very humanitarian and very caring, and we're not about, what I've come to know is we're not about secrecy. We're not an elitist family. We're actually very much against it. Eisenhower was raised on a farm, very humble. We're not a bunch of trust fund kids. I'm not walking around with a ton of money just because I have this last name at all. I have to work hard, and I live by truth, and so nobody in my family can argue with me for that. They're just very confused because these are very secret projects that they don't know about because they weren't confronted like I was, particularly about this Mars thing. But I know they support me, and I know, that the truth and being a genuine person with integrity is the best type of person you can be. And, of course, information is going to challenge us, but it's about character at the end of the day that counts the most.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this regarding the family. Will you have some special gifts, clairvoyant, astrologer, healer, etc.? Was that kind of a family thing, or were you kind of, did they encourage it because they understood it, or was it kind of suppressed?
No, I wouldn't say it was suppressed. It was just not something that was in the family thing. I mean, you could call me the black sheep of the family, the one that everybody's scratching their head trying to, like, what is up with her? I mean, I'm very close with.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. I studied all this stuff on my own. I went out and, figured it out because a lot of the shadow government, the elitists, use a lot of occult knowledge and information to pull off the manipulations that they do. I knew that I had to understand all this in order to counteract the destruction that they were causing. And I've also had many past lives, and I'm just connected to this type of stuff anyway.
Well, hold that right there, Laura. I'm so sorry we're out of time. We will be right back. Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower talking about global alchemy and the divine feminine. And I apologize, we kind of took a tangent here before she really answered the global alchemy, but we will get there, I promise. A couple questions that came up were if you had any firsthand experience with secret societies or black ops projects.
I was targeted as a young child, that I know, and later recruited to go to Mars, and a agent was sent, who I didn't know was an agent, who I ended up getting engaged to, who talked about, this trip to Mars, and I didn't really take it seriously at the time, and I didn't realize how much it was tied up into, these three-letter organizations and these these deeper agendas. I just really couldn't put two and two together because I had such an amazing connection with him, but noticed that he was under some sort of control. And about 9 months into the relationship, I found out that he was sent to find me, and I had been tracked. And he was, specifically sent to take me to Mars, and it was very hard to break free of. It wasn't just an invitation. It was, I was threatened to be kidnapped if I wasn't going to go, and it was really just to get me off planet. And growing up, starting from a young age, I felt a lot of frequencies coming at me, a lot of, like, from some sort of weaponry, and I was really kicked out of my body, and I probably was gone for about 20 years or so. Even though I didn't let anything possess it or take it over, it was very hard to inhabit, and I kind of went on this really big multi-dimensional journey through these different portals and clearing them. I mean, really bizarre stuff. I wrote a book about it. It's kind of too hard to explain, but I wasn't, involved in a project that, my parents were involved in. It wasn't something that was in the family. It was something that seemed to be related somehow to, Alternative 3 and things that might have happened during the Eisenhower administration, but I was the only one out of my family who was targeted and attacked on a weaponry level that had agents who were being monitored, and sometimes they were activated to do me harm if I wasn't going to go along with it, to the point of trying to kill me. So there was a few of those, and it was leaked to me that they had a list of men specifically that they had under their control to mess with me. So the last,
they're never ending.
Yeah. So I'm really hard to date because I ask a ton of questions. I interrogate. I'm like, okay, are you sure you're not gonna turn into a
Are you sure you're not chipped? Are you sure you're not black ops or supposedly ex-CIA? Or because we all know there is no such thing as an ex. But okay, so to your knowledge, there weren't any kind of linear family black ops projects like remote viewing, psychic spies, sex slave, even breeders, etc. You're not an assassin or anything like that?
No, nothing like that within the family, and I'm saying that because I'm 100% certain, but, nothing would shock me at this point. What happened was, though, there was all that you're talking about, the group that recruited me to go to Mars are the ones that, are psychic spies. They do the remote viewing. They developed, MK weapons and mind control weapons, and they work with, ET races. They have ET technologies, and they're behind the My Labs, and these were the folks that had my partner. They were controlling him, and they had sent him, and And that's what that's connected with. I'm not going to,
What do you
anything.
think about people who do that, or even, let's say, parents who put their children in projects?
Well, a lot of it is multi-generational, and it happened to that. It's passed along, and it absolutely breaks my heart. It's really terrible, and it's what I'm trying to expose. The last article I did for Politics, or Examiner.com, was about bringing some of this more into the open. I mean, I know it's already out there, but I'm doing my best to expose it even more. It's one of the one things I'm most passionate about, stopping and bringing attention to, because this is child abuse.
Well, it absolutely is, but we have you don't necessarily have to be a general or colonel or some big name or whatever in the military or a president or congressman, etc. I mean, they put notices up in the mess hall, just regular cooks in the Army or in the Navy or, mechanics, and they have a sign on the wall saying, is your child gifted? Let's have them tested. And so I agree with you. It's just absolutely atrocious that a parent would do that to their child. And I understand that they're brainwashed. It's for national security. It's a good thing and all. But that's why, that was one of the questions I had for Andrew Bashago, because he thinks his dad is a nice man. His dad put him in this project without his knowledge and consent as a little child, and he watches his friend lose his feet. I mean, I'm sorry, but these people are not nice people. A nice person doesn't do that to their child, in my opinion.
And that's what's the most damaging part of it, because a vulnerable child, their instinct is to love and to not see something as wrong. And at that impressionable age, they can't make sense out of it. They don't know what's right or wrong. And later they find out, wow, this just isn't normal. This isn't right. And they always have that feeling of trauma. That's why, they split off and have, this personality disorder because of it.
Absolutely.
And I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. It's that time, so hold that right there. We'll finish this up when we return after this short break. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, CosmicGaia2012.com is the website. Stay tuned. Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Top of the second hour here tonight with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower here on Truth Brigade Radio. And Laura, we have a real short segment here, so I don't want to waste too much time. If you would, just please continue.
Yeah, I was just, saying that I wish that some of these parents could just stop and get a hold of themselves and just say this is wrong and expose this and do something. It's just got to end. It's just got to end, and I'll do anything. I'll do anything to stop this. So
awesome. Well, I'm glad you're working on that, because it's I guess when you grow up that way, you think you're the only one, and thankfully to the internet and other means of communication and people that are speaking out, more and more people are waking up, so to speak. So I thank you for your efforts in exposing that. Let me ask you this. Another question on the chat was, have you met any Anunnaki or Greys yourself, or did you come by the info by way of the internet?
Well, I came across them sort of through other people. Basically, I don't know if you'd want to say channelers or people that they've used, and just whistleblowers and stories that I've heard firsthand. I don't really do a lot of research on the internet. I get most of my information from other sources. I've been in contact with a higher race when I was a kid, and I don't know if my memory's been wiped from other experiences, but mostly my experience was, it was about the positive timeline. A race when I was a child, when I was sitting in bed, showed me a viewfinder and asked me to look through it, told me to look through it, and they said that this is what you can create or co-create, is this positive timeline, and just stay true to that. And then, I was being prepared for basically going through a lot of cycles of death and a lot of cycles of, incredible threat where, I basically had to resurrect myself. Even my lifeline on my hand is split. You can see where I did kind of die and bring myself back to life. And sort of mastering, it's very much a journey like the Eleusinian mysteries, and very much a part of the initiations and the way things were in ancient times that the goddesses went through. They, going into the underworld and sort of mastering these gateways and busting through gatekeepers and learning how to go through this whole cycle. And that's part of the global alchemy. And I didn't understand it all growing up, but that was exactly what I was, dealing with, and there was a level of preparation because it was definitely a soul annihilation. As far as like grades and some of these lower races, I've not experienced them firsthand, but I kind of communicate to them as far as that they can't have me, and they're not going to win, and that I'm basically here to piss them off and put them in their place. So I mean, there's this kind of connection that I have just because I know they're there, but they don't really come near me. But I'm just aware of them, and I have been for a very long time, and it's just part of the story of creation, and I really have things traced back to the beginning, and they're just not unfamiliar species or races, and it's not something I'm just learning about from reading about it. It's just in my awareness, period.
Speaking of families and black projects and stuff, Jean Eisenhower, are you directly related to her or distant cousin? Have you read her book or heard her story?
Well, we're distant cousins. I'm not sure how distant. She wrote to me when I first got on Facebook, and I heard about her book. I haven't had a lot of time to read anything for quite a while.
It's a great book. It's really Rattlesnake Fire, I think .net. I'm going to pull that up real quick. Yeah, it is. rattlesnakefire.net for those of you tuning in tonight. But okay. So you haven't met.
Excuse me?
So you haven't met in person yet?
No, but we definitely want to. I've been spreading her information and her YouTube videos and been in touch with her.
Videos are great. So, check it out, youtube.com. Look for Jean Eisenhower. But it is that time. We will be right back. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. If you would like to join us for the text chat tonight, that's over at truthbrigade.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. That's 402-AFR-2525. Global Alchemy, and I promise we'll get to the topic, and Divine Feminine with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower tonight. And CosmicGaia2012.com is the website. Just tons of information on there, different projects she's working on, readings and teachings, and of course shows and articles and blogs. And I mentioned earlier, I don't think you were on the air. I just think you're a beautiful writer, Laura, and I love to read your little messages on Facebook, The Return of the Divine Feminine, and I just think you're doing a really great job getting this information out there, so I thank you for that.
Oh, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Okay, we were, where did we leave? Okay, I guess, we started talking about Jean and her book, rattlesnakefire.net, but, okay, and then we were getting back to Global Alchemy, but about, I guess the last question was about Anunnakis and Greys, and I think you had some more information about that to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just kind of woven into my path to kind of be on this particular mission. I've done this before. It's just, really going into the depths and facing a lot of these beings that, I see them and confront them when I read other people and how they're influencing their life. So it's kind of indirectly that I take it on. And it's, as far as Anunnaki go, there's Inanna and her whole story and myth that I'm very connected to as far as Venus goes and the Venus transits, which is about, going through those different gateways and reconnecting and reclaiming aspects and moving into these deeper layers and reclaiming the mother womb, which is, a force of regeneration and renewal and restoration of balance.
Venus, I like that. 'Cause my grandmother was Aphrodite, and I recently took up, but they didn't want to name me that because they didn't think it was American enough. But I ended up taking her name, and of course, in Greek mythology or history, there comes in Venus again. That's awesome.
Right, totally.
How did you come across this, though? I mean, were you brought up this way, or did you just instinctively, innately, was it just in you as a child, just begging to be set free or led the right direction? Did you go to a special school, or was it just something that came about as you were developing your path?
It was just, basically just all that I really know. And, the minute I was, really just walking and learning to talk, it was there, and nobody understood it. So I was very isolated in my understanding. I didn't go to school for it. I went to a normal school, and I really wasn't participating in school because I was sort of off, doing all this energy work and kind of feeling, everything that was going on the planet, and feeling this sort of this what has happened to the divine feminine energies or the goddess energies. But it wasn't anything that I had read about or really knew or understood. I just felt it in my body, and I felt it in my emotional body and in my reaction to the energies around me. And so instinctually, it was just, and this is in my book, if I can just get it finished. I just, like I said, I was somewhat being prepared by spirit guides and beings, and I was always kind of in contact with the Christ energy, and it was really about stepping into this darkness and this pretty much like Persephone being abducted into the underworld, and we're all taken to that place in different ways. But I was just really starting to understand, as I got older, how these connect with these older stories and these myths and these different names and these archetypes. And then I looked at my chart, which is like 7 Plutos and 7 Venuses, and it's about, that's very similar to the 7 gateways and the whole global alchemy thing. So I was like, okay, well, it's pretty innate because, this is the code or the energies that I came into the world with. So, yeah, nobody told me about it. Nobody helped me. I isolated, and I just was unusual, and people just thought I was weird. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in good hands. Awesome. Okay, well, Laura, moving on to global alchemy, and thank you, by the way, for explaining all that. I know we kind of got off track there a little bit, but okay, getting back to what global alchemy is and how we can attain that, and, of course, the role of the divine feminine, and what that is. Right.
Well, alchemy in general is really just the transmutation of one form into another. And when we look at symbols that are being misused, that have taken on a demonic consciousness, like the pentagram and the Nazi symbol, the inverted pentagram, and just how,
or even the pyramid.
Yeah, like most sacred symbology has been taken, and that power has been used in dark ways because it's like free energy. And they've chosen the dark route in order to, like through black magic, creating influence and power through the dark ritual rather than, the light and the love and the wisdom nature. And it's not about denying dark. Like I said, it's the place where rebirth happens. It's the fertile imagination. It's like the primordial sea of chaos, which is like our imagination that can really birth anything. And that's where returning to our freedom is. So the global alchemy is basically using the energies that we already have and the elements and the dimensions that we already have and taking it upon our own being to create balance and harmony. When we look at the tarot deck, we're dealing with archetypes. These archetypes all exist within us, but then they tell a story in our larger world, and these dramas have played out, and they've created the conditions that we're dealing with today. But if we, can recognize that all these forces are within us, we can start to do the inner work and create, the soul alchemy, which affects the world soul, which helps that journey that, the goddess is on, as a force of nature, as divine will, to turn these sacred symbols and turn these energies back around in order to, have, the underworld as the mother womb, the physical planet as the body, and the higher consciousness as the, essence of Holy Spirit and Nirvana. Right now, it's like all these forces are mismatched, and we've got, demons running the show, and all the light workers and the high beings and the wisdom keepers have all been exiled, and they're coming out, and they're, and Avalon and Atlantis and Lemuria and all these, Egypt and all these ancient civilizations and all the wisdom that they had and all the ways that they ran their civilizations, that's all gone a bit underground too, which connects to the goddess. In matriarchal cultures, things were very much in balance, but there's always been this threat, this force that's always tried to undermine it and which caused it to sort of shatter, which is where Inanna had to come in and retrieve her aspects, which has been going on, for thousands of years, that this sort of this other work of transformation behind the scenes has been going on.
It's very scary. Okay, look at the witch hunts, or, you're talking about symbols being changed in the pyramid, or the sacred eye turned into the evil eye. What is this fear we have of the divine feminine? And I just want to clarify, divine feminine has nothing to do with the feminist movement. And as we were talking about the gender roles and stuff in the first hour, I kind of, when we were talking about the destruction of families and male and female and they've kind of switched roles and men are kind of becoming females and females are kind of becoming men nowadays. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about what the divine feminine is and what it isn't, but I just kind of wanted to clarify that because that's another one of those bad words you're not allowed to talk about. Oh, that's New Age and that's evil and it's Lucifer worship. And so, it's just, we've been called every name under the book, for even talking about it. So why is it so scary? And what would life be like if, say, if the divine feminine was allowed to meld or come together with the divine masculine?
Well, that's, going back to so many stories. And, we've got Osiris and Isis, Damazi and Inanna, Magdalene and Jesus. These are archetypal, divine pairs that, and then, there's that opposing energy that always wants to retell the story and corrupt it and turn it into something it's not. And so, the church has made Christ the Savior. There's really no mention of Sophia, but there is an understanding of Magdalene. But, of course, she's the harlot that, was freed from, being a sinner. And so there's all this sort of demonizing of the feminine or this weakening of the feminine.
Yeah, we're all whores and temptresses and need to be seen, not heard, right?
Yeah, and it's, or they need to be saved and rescued. And it's all about that lower archonic forces. And another name for it is the demiurge, and it's that veil. It's the refusal to acknowledge the mother, the cosmic mother, the higher Sophia, the pleroma and the bythos, the Ein Sof, which is the womb of everything that created everything. And the fear is that if they start to empower the feminine, that they don't have anything to compete with and they can't have their own power. But the point is, the goddess isn't about power. She's about the power of love and the power of unity and the power of restoration and all those words, like I said before, regeneration and freedom. And it's not dogma, and it's about, there's really nothing to fear except we are being programmed, and it's been woven into our culture for thousands of years. And these stories have been rewritten, and the most important information has been taken out or destroyed or kept from us. And really, the goddess is really nature. Goddess is really, the planetary body Gaia, also the cosmos, and also the heavens, and in partnership with the male, and in union with the male who represents those things too. And so it's really not about the masculine or the feminine. It's about union. It's about the marriage, the alchemical marriage within, that on the larger world stage, that alchemical marriage creates this global transformation. And our goal is to master this within ourselves to help reunite these forces. They're always united in higher dimensions, but on Earth, they've almost been divorced by humanity, by our own concept of how we view the feminine and how we praise the masculine. And so the global elite and these patriarchal forces have completely taken advantage of it and have done all this stuff behind our back to keep this power alive. But
and we fall for it.
And they're doing it based on criminal things that the feminine goddess energy and anybody that, honors it within themselves, including men, couldn't even dream of doing. It has nothing to do with harming children. It's about taking care of the innocent and being guardians to the earth and caring about the children, protecting the children. So whoever's demonizing the feminine are the demons.
I agree. We have a caller, though, Laura. This is an unavailable area code, so if that's you, welcome to the show.
You had me waiting. I thought the second coming was about to come before you got to my call. How you doing?
How you doing tonight, Louie?
I'm all right. I'm just not the one to get fucked with, okay?
I'm
sorry you were on hold. I'm so sorry we're doing a show right now. Did we interrupt you?
Yeah, I was, doing some stuff. I was moving things around, because they pinched 91 of my guys the other day, and now there's just so much to do. And you know that old saying, good help is hard to find? But, I have to call Maya Lansky's great-grandson to help me out. But anyways, how you doing?
Good, Louie. What's your question tonight? I know the divine feminine is one of your favorite topics.
Well, is it?
That's what I heard. You did a couple shows on it.
I didn't.
Okay.
All right. Well, first of all, Laura, I would like to say I do not recognize your authority. So there you go.
Good for you.
Yay, you should recognize the power within and stop giving your authority and power away.
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm all about me right now.
That's what I'm encouraging people to do. So
that's
I don't really care what anybody thinks of me.
Yeah, it's the new hotness right now.
Okay.
If I live in truth, I'm doing the right thing, and I don't care who likes it or who doesn't.
Well, Laura, okay. I think he's flirting with you. This is the way he treats all women he loves.
Oh, that's sweet. Anyway, thank you.
You got outed.
Now that Christie just freaking ripped me out of the closet. I googled the picture.
You're kind of cutting out there, Louis. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, I googled Laura's picture, and yeah, she's a regulation 10 hottie.
So you are flirting. I was right. Oh my goodness.
Yes, you were. So
okay. So I presume your question has nothing to do with the divine feminine, but more about a date or what?
Honestly, I haven't been listening for the past 45 minutes.
You were just looking at her picture. Okay.
I was looking at her picture, and plus I was playing Pokemon cards.
Okay.
Squirtle.
All right, Louis.
You.
All right. So seriously, you don't have a question? Are we allowed to hang up on you now?
Okay. Which aliens can do my yard good?
What did he say?
I got nothing. I'm punching out.
I couldn't hear him. What did he ask though?
Well, he was being silly, made a silly joke, and I agree, Louis should punch out before someone else punches him out. So, thanks for calling. He said, what alien can do my yard work?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the same alien.
Louis of Crotch Shot Radio, kind of our resident prankster, shock jock, and always brings smiles to the scene, especially if we know he's joking from the start.
That's awesome.
Okay, yeah, so we plan when we hear Louis' voice, don't take anything seriously. Actually, he does surprise us once in a while. He had a real question last night, but all right, good job, Louis. Thanks for the smiles. Getting back on track here, we're talking about the divine feminine and the role that can play in this global alchemy that you talk about and teach, and of course why it's been so suppressed or so feared, and why people are ready to literally burn you at the stake for simply, it's here we go, back to religion again, and the divide. Well, there's one God, and he's a male, and he has a beard, and he's hanging out in the sky, and he's ready to just well, first, of course, you have to suffer your whole life here, and then you're going to die, and then you're going to be punished by burning in hell the rest of your life. And if you bring up the idea, well, wait a minute, doesn't it take two to create? I mean, wouldn't the divine, wouldn't it be all male and female? And yeah, literally, they're ready to burn you at the stake. So why is that so difficult to comprehend within our, indoctrinated mind state?
Well, the lower creator God, or whatever you want to call it, the demiurge, the alien God, the one that's, really creating this duality, was formed out of not necessarily, it's kind of a long story, and I'm not going to go into it, the myth and the whole Sophia story in connection to it. But it just refuses to acknowledge it. It wants to be the supreme being. It doesn't acknowledge that anything came before it. If we look at roles in a family and we notice what the mother role is.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's that time again. Okay. So hold that right there. We're going to leave off at the mother role. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower on Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower talking about global alchemy and the divine feminine. If you have any serious questions or comments and your name is not Louis B., please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. Just kidding, Louie. We love you. And if you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at truthbrigade.com. And shout out to everyone out there. I'm glad we're having fun. Here's a funny comment someone wrote in the break, I guess regarding our topic. God had ribs with Adam, then invented female to do the dishes. Oh, goodness, that's great. Okay, all right, but all right, we left off talking about the divine feminine and the mother role, so if you would, please continue.
Yes, I mean, people really have to completely let go, detach, deprogram from anything that they've learned before, anything, because basically anybody who worships or loves Christ is doing him a major disservice by not honoring the feminine, who he happens to be completely merged with and in love with, and who he advocated for in his life. And you can't have one without the other. And so a lot of times people who are into religion, that are into Jesus, are actually insulting him by not honoring, the feminine and the mother force. And this exists within all of us. And it's really about resurrecting that mystical and intuitive and deep mother, just this part of ourselves. It's not about us trying to compete in a man's world or being like men. There's an essence that has really been neglected and forgotten, and it's not about hokey witchcraft or ritual, even though maybe some choose that, but it's really about the essence of the will of nature and the cosmos and harmony and nurturing and the land is the body of the mother. And when we see how abused this planet has been and how vulnerable it is and how it has been so mistreated, I don't know how anybody can think of demonizing the earth when they're breathing the air, they're walking on the ground, and they're gazing at the beauty of our mother. And it's like, if they can't put two and two together and see that there's a link between the abuse of this planet and the abuse of the divine feminine, and they're still confused, I say please deprogram and detox, because this is not hard to grasp. Man, woman love each other, birthing children, creating babies, creating worlds, creating we're multidimensional, and it's like where people are getting lost in the books and in the dogma. I mean, just step out and look at just the nuclear family, look at your own relationships, look at your relationship with yourself, and really simplify things, because this is all very simple. This is all just about love, union, and protection and nurturing and being in a healthy, abundant, beautiful world where we're eating healthy food. We're not dealing with poisons. We're not dealing with competition or duality. We're dealing with a global family that is, the mother force, we honor and respect, just like a father should in a family, because she takes care of the children, and the male does too. And it's not about even having roles. It's about just working together in cooperation.
Absolutely. You know what? A comment just came up on the chat that says, when we pray to our Father, it cuts out all the middlemen the only way. And I just commented, well, how about our Father and Mother?
So what's the question exactly?
Because if we're praying our Father, we're completely leaving out that there is any divine feminine at all. Well, I guess I'm just suggesting, if that's how you pray our Father, what about our Father and our Mother?
Well, that'd be nice. There is Hail Mary. But the point is, it's like we keep putting them on deities and on names, and I think the names are important to honor, what they represent and what the blueprint is. But, when we honor the feminine, we're not just honoring the Virgin Mother. We're honoring, the totality of being female and understanding, the Kundalini and the sexual aspect of it, but in a sacred way, and just in a healthy way, in a way that works, in a non-exploitive, non-sort of negative projection kind of misuse sort of way. Power is misused, sexuality is misused. But really honoring, all aspects of the feminine, from the dark to the light to the creative and to the wrath of Kali and the wrath of the Mother Earth and the power of nature. And here we have all these manipulations and all these technologies and People, are still bent on the father, and it's just like, we all love our own mothers. I mean, we need that force in the world. That's what balances and nurtures. And if we had more of that power, we wouldn't be dealing with wars. We wouldn't be dealing with, and if we didn't, make it about matriarchy either, we made it about union and the mother and father being together. This is like, how happy is a child when their parents are getting along? How painful is divorce? I mean, it's time to heal the wounds by dealing with it on a root level and reuniting all the things that really count, because then it resolves the divorce within us and it resolves the dualities within us. So we have the inner work to do, and we have the responsibility to join these forces on this particular lower dimensional level, because they're always united in these higher planes. And, on Earth, it's just like they still are, but they're just not given the credit that they deserve. So they're kind of in hiding, It's like people
Well, how do we get back there? How do we get back to honoring the divine feminine and the divine masculine? How can we implement that in our daily lives, say?
In the way we choose to treat one another, in the way that we function in our communities and in our personal relationships. And it's not about, it's not about, the male and the female. I mean, it could be, how anybody wants to choose to love, whether they want to be with somebody of the same sex. It doesn't matter, like, what it looks like, or what form it takes, but it's about love and respect. It's about, really understanding that we can see the larger picture. We can see the way the world is, but we can't, be a victim to it or be powerless to it. We can choose to just create our own personal worlds that honor our values and what we know is important, and make our personal universe emanate and reflect, what we truly know counts. And that'll ripple out. It'll affect other people. It'll inspire other people. So we really have to just start with ourselves, with our relationships, with our children, with our families. And we have to be bold, and we have to put an end to these sicker things that are going on by speaking the truth and having a balance between taking care of the micro world and reaching the larger world, just by living the purpose of being true to ourselves and being good people that are creating harmony in our own lives. Some of us might be called to really, expose things and go a lot further, but that doesn't mean that their purpose is any greater or those that don't are any less. We all have a purpose by just, sorting out ourselves and coming into balance and doing the soul work to deprogram, to detox, and to break away from the false system and to stop feeding it. And that's the greatest purpose that all of us has.
Absolutely. Yeah, be true to yourself, your essence, your heart, and, but you mentioned, and your soul, of course. So how can we do that? Can you recommend any tools so that we can better reflect on ourselves, the proverbial mirror on the wall, and really look within and be honest with ourselves, because it's obviously going to have to take that. Stepping out of that box in these self-imposed prisons, we make for ourselves, and, kind of waking up is kind of a struggle, because, just because everything is a lie doesn't necessarily mean you know the truth. And so it almost seems like this black hole or this abyss, you're falling and falling, or you really don't know where you're going or what you're looking for. You're just looking for something different. So how can you recommend some tools on how we can better reflect on ourselves and get to know our true essence, our true core, our true nature, and therefore our power?
Right, and the hardest part, the reason there is that feeling of falling, is because we don't know what to trust. When we find out everything's lies, or we've had a tough time growing up and we have difficult relationships with our families, it's like, where do we have to fall back on? Who's going to catch us? Who actually cares and who loves us? Or if we've been through a lot of heartache and relationships have gone bad, it's like sometimes we don't know where to turn. And this is where, the unconditional love of spirit is. And I'm not going to try and get all fluffy and spiritual, but, really falling back on the Mother Earth, being in nature, connecting with animals, connecting with plants, connecting with, healing one's body through the most natural, methods, and understanding, the pain body and how it's a teacher. And when we really tune into things and not mask it with drugs and mask it with, escapist tendencies, and we actually can look at it right in the face, we can start to understand what it's trying to tell us, and we can learn from it rather than be a victim to it, or, get even more off center because we fear it because of the way that these conditions are projected in society. They're given labels. Oh, you have this disease, or you have this, dysfunction, or this mental illness. And if we can stop judging ourselves and actually listen to it and understand that our body is wisdom and everything that goes on with it has something to tell us in order to take us to the next level, then we can start learning and educating ourselves based on what's within us and what our body is telling us, rather than what is on TV or what the doctors tell us or what our schools tell us. It's time to really just say, hey, screw you. You know, I've got the knowledge. I got the power.
You're not the boss of me. Exactly. Yeah. You go, girl.
I just get pissed off, you know, and rebel, you know, but treat others kindly and treat others the way you want to be treated and be very forgiving, have compassion, but don't let people drag you down just because they might be moving like a snail, you know, as far as evolution goes. And, you know, we're all time travelers. It's like if I go to the store, I feel like a time traveler. I nothing, you know, I don't know what we're, it's just like, but, you know, we can't be so angry that we, you know, sit there and become cynical. We have to channel that anger into the passion to transform and to really reclaim ourselves, because we don't have to share the same destiny as those around us. We have the ability to take it as far as we want to go. It doesn't matter if people aren't moving as quick, but we can plant seeds and we can certainly inspire them to step up to the plate within themselves and to look, you know, hard within themselves. And it's scary because we have to face the emotions and the wounds, but, you know, we have to see ourselves as warriors and that we chose this and our higher self has put us through these, you know, circumstances in order to allow us to step into all that we are.
Very well said. Absolutely. I 100% agree. We're running out of time looking at the clock here, and I wanted to talk about your teachings and readings. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about the services you offer, the types of readings, counselings, and healings that you can help us with?
Yeah, I just basically give you information that you're showing me. I'm not really about giving advice or telling you about your future, or I'm very ethical. I mean, it's really important that, you know, the things that you might be blind to, I'm able to show you, because, you know, when one looks at the aura and the chakras and the astrology charts and the tarot or whatever, I tend to use a lot of tools, and sometimes I just close my eyes and tune in. I'm just giving back what I'm seeing, and then I allow the person to sort of heal themselves and answer their own questions. And, you know, it's really about clearing foreign energy out of one's space and, you know, helping them, you know, let go of information that really isn't theirs, that they're running on, that they're believing in. And, you know, it's to really help that transformation and that soul alchemy, and to help, you know, with one's relationships and one's creative power, and to, you know, really understand the wisdom that their life is trying to teach them, rather than, you know, feel that doom and gloom and buy into these catastrophic timelines and these, you know, doom complexes of our own personal lives and relationships. It's to just, you know, not get into the positives in a cheesy kind of like, ooh, everything's great, you know, but get into a positive frame of mind where one is constantly able to handle the adversity and the darkness and do something productive with it, like a gardener does with soil, rain, and seeds, you know. And I'm not trying to be too metaphorical, but it's, you know, it's about taking something that seems very, very complex and simplifying it enough to give one the tools to be able to go home and visualize, you know, and get in communication with their beings and their spirit body communication to, you know, create these changes that they can feel are permanent because they really did it. I'm just kind of helping them and assisting them. I'm not doing it for them, and I'm not, you know, here to say you're going to meet somebody in 3 years. I'm not like into future casting or anything like that, but it's really about being in present time and looking at
darn. I wanted to know when I was. No.
Well, I mean, I can look into the future, but it's like,
I'm
teasing. I know you're kind of kidding, but I mean, I can do that, and I do read past lives and stuff like that, but I tend to prepare one for the future and their strengths and their gifts so that they can create what they want, rather than, you know, tell them what's going to happen, because when you do that, they kind of get in the way of themselves. It's like if we follow predictions like in the year 2000, you know, so-and-so, this is going to happen and this race is coming, you know, then we kind of sit around waiting and we're not actually making it happen. So we want to make sure that we're always actively creating and not just kind of sitting around getting complacent thinking that it's just going to fall into our lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see how, you know, definitely becoming aware of your past lives and stuff. I mean, I'll speak for myself. It's helped me in this life to understand, well, a little bit. I don't really understand much. I'll be the first to admit that, but it has kind of helped me. But I totally agree with your point, is staying in the now and trying to see the magic of now, because, you know, who it was, Joseph Whitewolf said there's no future in the past. And I know a lot of us sometimes can get caught up. I mean, we all do. We're programmed to do that, to look at the clock, rush to work, we're late for this, worry about our appointments tomorrow, worry about how much we sucked at whatever we did yesterday, etc. But, yeah, the magic of now is where it's at. So, anyways, it is that time, so we're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with our special guest tonight, Magdalene Eisenhower, talking about global alchemy and the divine feminine. Big topic, and you covered it very well. So thank you again for being here tonight. Once again, her website is CosmicGaia2012.com. That's CosmicGaia2012.com. And we left off talking about your readings and staying in the now. So I know you do astrology charts and readings and such. Can you tell us what, in fact, astrology is something that the listeners, they've been requesting another show on, and I hear you, and I thank you very much for the feedback. So we will do that. But can you tell us a little bit about what that entails? And we'll stick with the astrology for now since we're running out of time.
Yeah, well, it's obviously we're born under particular influences, and they end up being, they bring in information from our past lives, our future potential, just ancestral patterns, the way that we conduct our relationships, the different wounds that have gotten in the way, and the different, maybe overabundantly positive and, sometimes arrogant qualities that can get in the way too. It kind of allows us to see our strengths and our weaknesses. Each sign has, a positive attribute and has a negative attribute. It just helps one come into balance. So that's what I really do. I look at, the positives and the negatives, but not in a good or bad way, because negatives aren't in my world bad. They're just, things that can be transformed and changed. And it's really, about finding that neutrality. And I use it for health reasons to help people understand their afflictions, because each sign does rule a particular organ. And I also help people kind of break free of the zodiac and break free of the rulership and the dominance that some of these influences can have over us, and to understand, what these recipes, equate to, and what does it say, about the person, so that they can really enter the core of who they are, free of the subpersonalities and the different aspects and behavior patterns that is what we react to or, not react to in our lives. So I focus on the nodes, information that we've been carrying with us, and parts of ourselves, or the part of ourselves that we're learning to step into that might not feel very familiar. And also, one's, work in the world, and just, one could say purpose, but I mean, people are all born with a purpose. And it's to really just be true to yourself, and to find, what means the most to you, what your passions are, and to really go for it. But there's a lot that likes to get in the way. We have sabotaging voices, and we have, things that we do that can get in the way and harm the process. But it's all important stepping stones, of our complete and total, transformation. Because we're carrying a lot of energy from the beginning of time till now, but we have to see, this planet and ourselves as an organism with a breath, and it's not really about past or future. It's about being in the now, as in, all these different dimensions. We are time travelers. We are, beyond technology, so we have access to things and memories, but sometimes we can't tell if the memories are ours or somebody else's. Sometimes we take on other people's pain and we heal it through our own body. So it's really about, understanding how to rise above it all, but also when one's in it, to maintain a level of neutrality, so that they're not pushed around all over the place and, finding themselves, getting into major ruts that can lead to a lot of destruction. There are times where it's important to go inward and do a lot of, inner work, but it's really about protecting people from destruction and, even suicidal thoughts, or just, total hopelessness. So, it's just about self-awareness and also breaking free. That's how I kind of conduct my astro readings.
Yeah, and astrology, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it than what we read, oh, you're a Virgo. This is how you and 1/12 of the people of the world are going to be. You're exactly alike, and here's your little blip in the newspapers or magazines, which really is just, it's an atrocity, because it is a science, and there's so much more to it than that. But, while we're speaking about astrology, let me ask you this. I think it was Yahoo or AP or someone like that put out an article saying, oh, everything we think we know about astrology is totally wrong. Here's this new planet.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different astrological systems that use more than the 12 zodiacs. The Vedic system's different as well. And I really, appreciate, the fact that there's another element to it, but when one looks at the windows, the 12 pieces of the pie, you add a 13th in there, and it's not supposed to shift everything a month. It can overlap it. It can be like, okay, well, it's between, I think it was Sagittarius and Scorpio. It can be like this window that complements the energies that are already there. But we also think of the number 13. It's a very taboo number. We don't even have 13 elevators. We have Friday the 13th, the 13th apostle, the 13th aeon, the 13th moon calendar, which is the true calendar. So 13 is one of those numbers that is very magical, very significant. So we should add it to the mix and not take away what's already been there, but have it complement it. Or, have two different readings, because the 12 zodiac system really does work, and it's extremely accurate. And the work that I've done with it has been profound, and I definitely I'm not a part of belief systems, and I don't necessarily rely on tools, but they're there. And like if somebody added another tarot card, actually, there's one more tarot card. Some decks have, a lot more numbers than other decks. Some people only use the major arcana. Some people use, 72 cards, 58 cards. It doesn't matter. The point is when you add something, it doesn't mean that everything else has to go crazy or that the old system was wrong. It's
everything we thought we knew is wrong again.
Yeah, no, they're dealing with astronomy, and they're trying to understand the science of astrology, and the two are very different. And there are a lot of constellations and a lot of other zodiac signs besides the 12 we have. There's actually 15 or 16. Yeah. So. Absolutely. Very good point. So, I just 20 seconds left here, but is it going to change the way you do your readings, this latest so-called discovery? What I might do is say, hey, I'll do your 12, the 12 zodiacs, and I can do an extra one and throw in, this new one to see. It's almost like adding an asteroid or another influence. Some people don't even read the notes. I might just, put it in to see how it affects everything. Yeah, awesome, Laura. We'll definitely check that out. I'd love to know more about that, but I want to thank you so very much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us tonight. Once again, CosmicGaia2012.com, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Thank you again, Laura, and thank you all for being here tonight. Have a wonderful weekend, abundant blessings and love to all, and stay tuned for Freeman.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in